Hey guys, welcome back. Time for part 4 of the NES collection. We're almost done. We might have one or two more parts to do. So without further ado, let's get into it. But if you missed parts 1 or 3, why not go back and check them out? There's a lot of great games in there. Now, I'm not saying that I know everything about all the games because a lot of them I haven't even played. This is just a way for me to catalog everything and prevent me from hopefully buying doubles due to my spotty record keeping. So let's get right into it. First one we're going to see is, this is a game that I can't tell you how much money I pumped quarters into at the arcade. This is Narc. Arcade version is fantastic. One of my favorite arcade games to play. NES one sort of stands up to it. It just doesn't have that same oomph or power that the arcade one seems to have. It's got most of the things there. It's like the sound effects and everything have been cut back a little bit. Best part about this one is when you've got a group of guys coming at you and you've got your rocket launcher and you do the explosion, just the body parts fly. And I always found that in the arcade to be super awesome. You didn't really see that very often. This was another one that was extremely difficult for me to play back in the day. I just never had the skills. Ninja Gaiden. I say Ninja Gaiden. I don't care. Whatever. Side-scrolling action game whereby your father has been killed and you're the ninja and you have to go avenge his death, defeat the bad guy. Renowned for how difficult it was back in the day, but now if you go online and sort of watch like even speed runs of it, you can sort of see where you went wrong. I think the idea is more to sort of keep a flow going in the game, especially at certain parts where I was always, calculated in terms of getting past one part and moving on to the next, and I think that's where my downfall came to be. Part 2, Ninja Gaiden, The Dark Sword of Chaos. This game takes place 1 year after the first one. And some evil guy wants to take over the world using the power of the Dark Sword of Chaos. Your job to obviously prevent it. This was another one that was a big arcade one for me. Operation Wolf. What I liked about this one was in the arcade, it was actually the ones where you had your replica submachine gun. Had a button on the front for grenades. Your trigger was firing. It was constantly, I can't remember now. Was the screen side-scrolling? Or were you just still at one? I think you were just still at one point. Enemies would come in and then you would take care of it that way. I think at some points it did sort of scroll. Unfortunately, with the NES one, you obviously don't have the option of using, an authentic or replica machine gun. You're stuck using a crosshair on the screen with your NES controller. And just using the D-pad to move back and forth, it's just not the same in terms of speed and sort of accuracy. So I always found it a lot more difficult and a lot less entertaining on the NES. Classic, fan favorite game, Paperboy. Again, this was another arcade one. I believe with the arcade, it was actually done through a handlebar style of gameplay. I think they're probably, for me, probably identical in terms of gameplay. The NES one is fine. I always found that I could never get past like a certain stage, like maybe like the second or third stage. The difficulty just seemed to ramp up. Love the movie, and the game was okay. I remember not being too disappointed with it when I got it, or when this was a rental, Platoon. it's not necessarily side-scrolling, but it's also, you've got the options of moving to a certain point on this screen, and then there'd be an option to move up or down the path, and then that would be your transition to another area. Difficult, never finished this one. Okay, next is a game by SNK. This is POW, Prisoners of War. Essentially, it's like a side-scrolling beat-em-up game. There's 4 stages. I believe you can still play 2-player with this one. And your character's got basic attack abilities like punch. Remember, there's like a flying knee. There's opportunities where you can pick up a machine gun, though I recall it was like sort of limited ammo. And yeah, you just had to basically get through the 4 stages. Never finished that one, that's for sure. Up next is classic port from many systems, Qbert. Fun game, though I'd probably say definitely the arcade version is the definitive one that you would want to really play if you could. Again, just one of those ones where you would just beat the stage by stepping on all. The board is a pyramidal shape, pyramid style shape. You have to step on all the blocks while avoiding these other enemies that were coming down on top of you, and then that's how you clear the stage. Fun arcade style game. Did I have this one already? Yes, this was a Tengen release, though this is the gray card version, not the black one. RBI Baseball. Definitely one of the better baseball games. I've already talked about which ones I thought were the better ones to play in episodes 1, 2, and 3. Oh, and I also had a comment. Some guy said, I'm displaying my games wrong, and that's fine. I know some people would normally do it like this so you can see the label. I have the label protected as much as possible, so that's why I've got mine displayed like this. And they're on my shelves like this, just so that I can leave this in here and then pull it out easier, that style, instead of having to fish for the empty tag down there. But if I restore them, it's perfectly fine. Not a good game. Renegade. Again, side-scrolling beat 'em up. Definitely better ones to play. I'd even say I'd pick POW over Renegade. That's for sure. A Tengen game, RBI Baseball 2. Not much else to be said about that. Just straight up baseball game. This is a fun game. I don't know if I don't have the second one, so I don't know if they've made improvements or not. I know that's a pretty uncommon one to find, but this is RC Pro-Am. Basically, you drive around radio-controlled cars, you against 3 other cars on the track. And then there was always that piece of crap yellow one there who would always... It was unfortunate. The only unfortunate part about this game was there's no opportunity to leave your opponents behind, because as soon as you got to a certain point in the screen, the other guys would somehow manage to catch up. So you all sort of had to be within that sort of continuing frame of vision as it traversed throughout the track that you're driving on. And there were power-ups in there too, like you could get... what did you have to... You had to spell pick up letters, and that would give you a bonus. Like, I think you'd spell RC Pro-Am or some nonsense. And there's like little boosts in the game or on the track that could give you an advantage, or you could pick up missiles. But again, it was difficult because up to a certain point, it just sped up so fast that there was no opportunity to sort of... The AI vehicles always manage to overtake you and take first place. Okay, next is Well, we've mentioned this company before a couple times. This is Kemco Seika. They definitely have better games than this one, but this is Rescue the Embassy Mission. It's a tactical shooter video game. Basically, terrorists have overrun the embassy, and you take control of a 6-man team on a mission to free the hostages. There's like 2 or 3 parts in the game. The first one is you have to sort of maneuver like 3 men into position while avoiding searchlights, and then you can sort of take on a sniper role. Honestly, I haven't played it much or remember much about it, but it was kind of boring. RoboCop 2. I'd say the first RoboCop is better, though the only fond memories I really have are of the arcade version of RoboCop. Again, just came out at the time when everyone was hyped on the movie. The sound effects were great in that game. The violence was great. You know, you start off as RoboCop and you just be punching, and then there'd be a certain point on the stage where you unlock your gun, and then it pops your thigh on your right leg separates, and then it pulls out your gun, and then you can start blasting the enemies. Just a fun game, especially arcade style. This was my original, though someone else is enjoying the box and manual that I used to have for it. I have no idea what happened to it. But this is Rygar. Again, a very underrated game. I don't think a lot of people appreciate it the way it should be appreciated. It's a side... I want to say the main parts of it are side-scrolling, but then it takes a turn. It also transitions to a top-down perspective where you're controlling your character. And while you can move up and down, the screen also shifts left and right, depending on which stage you go to. And also, it's got one of the best soundtracks, I think, in an NES game. The arcade one, I, oddly enough, prefer the NES version over the arcade. I don't think I remember there being an arcade, or maybe I never tried the arcade one until after the fact. I might have been old enough to even go to the arcades to really hear about it. This was a fantastic game, though. You power up your character. He's got this spinning disc that shoots from his wrist. You take out the guys. You can upgrade your character. Yeah, just a standalone hit, and definitely, for me, a top 10 game for the NES. Okay, next is, this was one where I preferred the arcade version over the NES. Skate or Die. Basically, you partake like in 5 different skateboarding events, and you know, like there's ramp events, freestyle events, and it's just a point-based style of skateboarding game. Fun, though I think I would prefer, it's not necessarily a skateboarding only game, but like the TNC Surf and Design game. I prefer that over this one. This game absolutely sucks. And it's a Kemco Seika game, unfortunately. But it's Spy versus Spy. It's 2-player. Well, it can be 2-player. And basically, one's the white spy, one's the black spy. The whole idea is to go from different rooms, plant traps that sort of take care of the other person. You'd see him walking into the room, maybe open up a drawer of a dresser where you planted like a bomb, and it blows off and he dies. That kind of stuff. All right, next is a pickup from, it was actually a pickup from this year. And it's one I'm not familiar with because I never played it back in the day. Let's see if I can even say the name properly. This is The Magic of Scheherazade. So it's an action-adventure RPG style of game. Basically, how to describe it here. It's done in chapters. There's an overworld, top-down perspective. You visit towns and dungeons. I don't know, your basic RPG style of gameplay. I haven't tried it aside from looking at it online. So this is definitely on my list of ones to play this year. And it was just one I had never come across before or even heard of. So that's sort of why I was kind of excited to add to the collection. Sky Shark. Shooter game, top-down, vertical shooter, and can't recall if this was an arcade version or not. It may have been, but not my original because that is. Did I have a box for it? Yeah, I don't know where the box went for this one too. Anyway, everyone knows this one. Mario Brothers. Mario 2. Don't need to really say anything about these ones. Mario 3. And Super Mario Bros. Duck Hunt. And then Bros, Duck Hunt, and Trackmate. What is there to be said about those ones that haven't been said already? Now, this is a fun one. I like this one. Super Spike V-Ball. I enjoyed it because of the graphics on it. It had sort of, I don't know, I always thought the characters were like River City Ransom style. It's just a volleyball game. I don't know. Fun. Easy one to pick up and play. This is one that I believe, this might be my original, I can't remember. But I distinctly remember buying it. Tag Team Wrestling. What kid didn't want to play wrestling games back in the day? And this was fun. Obviously, the characters were all just goofy. You couldn't really make out who they were. It's not like the later versions where it'd be like, you know, you got WWF at the time versus WCW. Just standard wrestling characters. I just think every kid enjoyed sort of inflicting the punishment on your opponent by mercilessly beating on them until you could pin them. Tecmo World Wrestling. I don't know if this one was better. I think I preferred Tag Wrestling. A little bit of Ninja Turtles. Fun game. Goddamn difficult. Frustrating at points because of... the most frustrating thing was you had access to all 4 characters, but each one, and you could change from one character to another, but if you're on one character and his hit points were like at 2, and then you switch to the other player because if they had full hit points, and then that character became low, and you went back to the other one, he'd still only have 2 hit points. So unless you found ways to boost the health up, you could lose the character, and once they were gone, they were gone. So you had the 4 characters to basically make it through the game. Jumping was a pain in the butt at certain points, especially like when you're traversing through the sewers. Manhattan Project, a little bit better. Still a frustrating turtle game. This is the one that I prefer to play. Again, just from the name alone, you could tell Turtles, the arcade game. The arcade version was super fun, awesome graphics. 4-player, just big, massive turtles. Enemies were great. The boss fights were fantastic. Super large screen. The animation was well done. Good story. A lot of April O'Neil action in it. That's her name, right? I don't know. What's there to be said about this one? Tetris. Okay, and this was another pickup from this year. This is Activision's Thunderbirds. It's a vertical scrolling shooter based on, obviously, the Puppet TV series. The Earth's being threatened to be destroyed by meteors by the diabolical bad guy group, the Hood. And you've got 60 days to stop it. It's a vertical scrolling shooter. You can swap between the 5 Thunderbird vehicles. And they've got health. I don't know. I've just briefly threw it in when I bought it. And it actually looks really good. I'm going to have to give it a good playthrough at some point. There's like, I remember there's like 3 zones, but each zone's got like multiple stages. And then, I don't know. It looked good. Check it out, Thunderbirds. Don't know anything about this one. Konami made it though. Tiny Toons Adventures. Can't imagine it's very good. Probably pales in comparison to any of the Disney games. Okay, next is a game. Believe it or not, this is actually, if I recall correctly, made by Rare. This is Time Lord. It's a side-scrolling action platform game, and you know, the Earth is under siege, so you get to use time travel technology to help you. There's 4 periods in human history that are under attack, I guess, lack of a better word, and it's your job to help prevent it from happening. I don't know. Not much different than the first one, though for me, the first one's got the nostalgia. Not to mention difficulty. This is Top Gun 2, the second mission, or just Top Gun, the second mission, sorry. The first one, difficulty was, wasn't the flying part, wasn't the shooting down, it was actually, and everyone could probably remember this, it was the actual landing on the carrier. There was confusion as to how to interpret the information they're giving at the bottom in terms of, you know, doing your pitch and your speed and whatnot. So as a kid, I never fully understood that, and I think a lot of people had the same issues, and you'd always end up flying over the carrier and crashing in the water, or crashing prior to it. This is a fun shooter. Vertical, top-down shooter, Twin Cobra. You're in a helicopter, blowing stuff up, you get power-ups. Okay, next is a game based on a movie, Capcom's. That's The Willow. I think I enjoyed the movie at the time. When I rented the game, that wasn't the story. It's a 2D action role-playing game. Basically, you're Willow, and you don't have any other characters that enter your party. It's basically you just throughout the entire game. You can do upgrades, you get to cast spells. Sort of like that top-down appearance of, I don't want to say like Chrono Trigger, because Chrono Trigger is such a way better game in all aspects, but that sort of style and feel to it, though this super pales in comparison to it. Not one of the better wrestling games, but I think we all picked it up or rented it because Hogan was on the cover, WrestleMania. A game that I wished was a lot better. This is the Uncanny X-Men. It's a top-down, where you get to obviously be the X-Men characters. Though your characters are so small, and if I recall correctly, their only forms of attack are punching. Even though you got Wolverine and you got claws, I just remember the attack being you'd get hit more often than you would hit the enemies, that kind of thing. And then you could switch between all the the X-Men characters, and again, use up their life points. Not a very good game. This one I loved in the arcade. Sunsoft's Xenophobe. The NES version, they did as good a job as they could with it. Obviously, the arcade one was better. The arcade was a 3-player game. I think on the NES, you could only play 2-player. If I recall, you're on a space station that's invaded with essentially xenophobes or creatures that look like, the aliens from the Alien movies. You've got laser pistols. There's a time limit on it, though, where you have to sort of disable or set a bomb to go off so that the space station blows up before, and then you have to get off in time. And it's just a constant side-scrolling where you're going from room to room to room in a space station. There is an elevator portion, though it only takes you like from one level to another, but it's still a side-scrolling transition. Fun game. The arcade, though, is definitely the preferable way to play this one. Okay, next is, what is this? This one is Yoshi. It's a falling block game. Basically, the screen's like divided into 4 columns, and the idea is to match Yoshi's eggshells to hatch them and prevent 4 stacks from piling up and falling on the other guys. Again, just a sort of another derivative or different take on sort of like a Tetris style of gameplay, Dr. Mario style-esque. I don't know. I was never a fan of that one. Here is one of my loose copies, so that I don't have to open up my complete box one, but Zelda. Let's everybody sad about that. And then Zelda 2. I'm a fan of both of them. Obviously, Zelda is definitely in the top 5 of NES games, if not top 3. They just did everything right with this one. Top down, Dungeon Explorer, Overworld. I don't know. I call it Dungeon Explorer. Not so much a fan favorite for some reason. I think people were more interested in continuing on this style of gameplay, where your character sort of doesn't change. The only unfortunate part with this one is the overworld experience. Your character, and everyone knows, I don't even know why I'm saying this, but I think a lot of people didn't like how your character changed from a full-size figure to a smaller representative on an overworld map, where you would travel and then suddenly, if bad guys appeared, they'd be like a little black blip of an enemy, and then if you touched it, you went into a full-screen side-scrolling battle. I think just people enjoyed it's probably indicative of how well this game was done that upset everyone, and the fact that they changed portions of it for Zelda 2. So, but again, I'm happy with both. I just think it's a nice evolution. And how can you really improve on almost perfection for an NES game? And we'll leave it at that. And on that note, that's it for part 4 of the NES collection. There's probably going to be 1 or 2 more parts. Definitely 1 more part. We'll see if I want to make that one a bit longer, but we'll see. Anyway, leave me a comment below. Tell me your thoughts on some of the games, especially the ones I'm not sure about, like Magic of Scheherazade, or what's another one? I'd love to hear your thoughts on Rygar as well and the Thunderbirds game. If any of you have played the Thunderbirds one, let me know about it. And then just let me know whether or not you're a Rygar fan or not. And on that note, we'll catch you again for part 5 of the NES collection.